Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, it's the Journalists Roundtable. We'll look at the week's top stories, including what campaign fundraising reports say about this year's statewide races. The Journalists Roundtable is next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your public television station.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. It's Friday, and that means it's time for the Journalists Roundtable. And joining us tonight, Howie Fisher from Capital Media Services, Bob Christie, also from Capital Media Services, and Cameron Sanchez from KJZZ Radio Panel. Good to have you all here. Thank you so much for joining us. Howie, we're going to start with you. Quarterly reports are in. Let's start with the governor's race. The governor looks like she's in pretty good shape. We'll talk about that shape, but we're kind of interested in the Republican opposition, because that's where the fight really is.
Oh, definitely where the fight is. And of course, everyone is trying to figure out how do they get enough money to do this. I mean, you've got Karen Taylor Robson, who probably has more cash on hand, but of course, $2.2 million of that is her own money, which is, it's good to be able to do that. What you're left with is, the other folks who are fighting to say, how do we go ahead and get out there? Now, Andy Biggs has the ability, because he's in the Senate, to command a certain amount of what they call earned media. He can hold a press conference. He's done it almost incessantly. And then you've got David Schweikert, who has some money left over from a congressional campaign. He can move some of that over. Doesn't have a lot. Did some 15-second commercials up on the air, but has yet to really catch fire.
Yeah, Biggs and Schweikert, both, coming from Congress, they've got their own fundraising mechanisms. Robson's got a fundraising all to her own here. What does this mean as far as their candidacies and how, what shape they're in?
Well, all three of them need to broaden their appeal to all of Arizona. Congressman Biggs, obviously well known in the East Valley of Phoenix, Mesa, where he's represented for 17 years between the Arizona Senate and in Congress for a decade now. Same with Congressman Schweikert. He's got Scottsdale, but they're not known statewide really. And neither is Karen Robson Taylor, although she has a leg up because she spent untold amounts of her own money and other money just 4 years ago running for governor. So she's got kind of a leg up as far as maybe statewide recognition. All three of them, though, have got to reintroduce themselves to voters. You'll see this cycle where Congressman Schweikert is up on the air now, and he's saying, I'm David Schweikert, and this is what I stand for in short little bits. But that's what this part of the campaign is about, reminding people who they are, introducing them to people who've never heard of them, and hopefully building some momentum.
And Cameron, we've got the Republican, side. We're seeing a lot of 783,000 on hand, 572,000 on hand, and then we look at the Democratic side. The governor's 6.2 million on hand.
Well, she's been sitting on that nest for a little while and building it up, which is also speaking to the fact that she's been the candidate for a long time. The Democrats knew that she was going to be the candidate, and they have that big machine. So her money is partly from her history, and it depends sort of on how she spends it in the right places, because she definitely has name recognition. People know who the governor is, but the question is she going to be able to stay on top and keep up enough momentum in this, not primary so much, but the general? And
what's important is, I think the kind of race she's going to wage is going to be a lot of media campaign. She's not good in, meet and greet stuff. I don't see her going out there and shaking hands and kissing babies and doing all the rest of that. Many of her availability, she doesn't even talk to the press. She had several this week that way. And so I think we're going to be seeing wall-to-wall commercials of, I'm here, look how great things are. Now that gets into the question of, do you believe things are better? It's the old, it's the economy, stupid. Now everybody's got a theory on, is the economy better than it was, and is it Trump's fault or Biden's fault?
Well, then that's a good point, because you've got three people on the other side who are all saying in their own way, with their own money, that things aren't very great, and they're all pointing at the governor.
That's right. And again, how much of it sticks to the governor and how much of it gets deflected onto Republicans and President Trump or former President Biden. A governor can only do so much. She is focused. I mean, she said repeatedly in her State of the State speech a couple of weeks ago that affordability is her main focus. Her budget rollout such as it was and whether it won't go anywhere, but she has some affordability things in there. So you'll see that hit and hit and hit. I think the Democrats are going to run on that. She's got $6 million. She raised 15 since her last election, since she won as governor. Where the other 8 million went?
Well, that's the point. She's burning through it to go ahead and build this empire, to build a little bit of this media presence here and do those sort of events, travel around the state with a videographer in tow. We'll be seeing those in lots of commercials. Can you win a race strictly based on videos? Maybe.
And Cameron, that's my question. These numbers, these are quarterly reports, and obviously people that follow politics look at the numbers closely because it kind of shows who has momentum, who's getting interest, who's kind of being left behind. But what does it mean overall for the governor's race? Are there any tea leaves here?
I mean, having money is a good thing. And I would say, statistically speaking, it does help win races, although, of course, it's not a guarantee of anything. I would note, though, for folks who maybe don't pay attention to this stuff that much, that, this is still somewhat early. And people like Schweikert, who jumped into the race late, I would take that with a grain of salt. He could still be more successful at fundraising later on, but he's jumping in last.
Yeah, the one thing I would say is, if one of these Republican candidates had super exceptional polling and it was well known across the nation, you'd see a bunch of checks being written for that person. We don't see that yet. I don't know what that tells you about Arizona, but what it tells me is nobody has a head start yet and the money's not flowing.
Cameron, back to you. The Attorney General's race, Chris Mays, $2.8 million on hand with no self-funding. For the Republican side, the candidate with the most on hand is Rodney Glassman.
Yes, Rodney Glassman, and he has donated a lot of money to himself, as I think Howie likes to point out in these situations. But he's doing well in terms of cash on hand and fundraising so far, even if you acknowledge that. Mays is next, and then I believe Peterson's in third. But they all have within, I think, $1 million or so of one another, so it's not so crazy for Peterson to have less.
But what Peterson has, and we talked about this with Andy Biggs, he has a platform. Assuming he stays, there's been all sorts of reports, will he quit as a Senate president? It does allow him to go out and do fundraising because as a legislator, you can't take lobbyist money during the session. But he has this platform. He's a Senate president. He stands up there at the podium. He gets a certain amount of attention. He has a full-time paid press aide to put out his statements. And that buys a lot of media.
Yeah. Right. What do the numbers say about this race?
Well, it says it's... the Republicans are going to slug it out. Rodney Glassman is kind of a perennial candidate. I think we've all covered him off and on for a decade as he runs and doesn't win. And a lot of his stuff is self-funded. You look at his campaign finance reports, they don't show a groundswell of grassroots check writing. It's Rodney Glassman and a bunch of Rodney Glassman supporters. But that so far over the decade has not translated into large donations that win races.
Yeah, Secretary of State race, Adrian Fontes has $780,000 collected. He spent about $380,000, leaves about 400 some odd thousand on hand. Alexander Culloden, $225,000 on hand. What do we know about this race from those numbers?
Respectable. I expect Culloden's going to have that Turning Point machine kind of behind him, Turning Point Action being their political arm, and he has the support of that sort of sect of the population, as you would expect. So I think it's great for him going into the primaries, but it remains to be seen. Obviously, Fontes is going to have national Democratic support going into the general, like Hobbs.
And that's a really good point, Howie. The outside, but we're talking about money being raised right now. The outside money is still bubbling out there. I mean, that could totally upend a whole bunch of stuff, couldn't it?
Of course it can. Now, as you point out, in this race, there's only one Republican, one Democrat. There's no primary that they're going to have to battle out. And so I think what's happening is Democrats and Republicans are looking, saying, we have a limited amount of money. Are these races winnable? Can Alexander Culloden, who has a reputation of being a bit of a bomb thrower, is it worth us putting money in the race? There's one other factor in terms of why there's not a lot of money in the race. It used to be the Secretary of State was next in line for governor. This will be the first election where the gubernatorial candidates will choose lieutenant governors, which makes the Secretary of State third in line, so people aren't as interested in investing in that.
Interesting. All right, Superintendent of Public, one more here. Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tom Horn, Kimberly Yee, Horn 396, Yee 257. The Democrats, no one really has put the 160 past that so far. We'll see. That will probably change because it is education. But I mean, everyone's watching Horn versus Yee.
Oh yeah, that's going to be a slugfest. It's really interesting because Tom Horn former superintendent of public instruction, who then was attorney general, who then got defeated by Mark Brnovich in a Republican primary when he was seeking re-election, somehow reinvented himself, won the superintendent of public instruction again, and now he's the target of Kimberly Yee, the sitting treasurer for the last 8 years. And she's got a machine behind her. She wanted to be governor, but when we got Robeson and Biggs and everybody else in, she changed her focus to somewhere else. She wants to stay in the game. Tom Horne wants to stay in the game. So we're going to have to wait until August to see.
And this is also outside money. Look for Turning Point and the folks from the Legislative Freedom Caucus to find ways to funnel money into her campaign. And that's where the money's going to be, not so much what she raises, but what the outsiders put in.
And we should mention that the Democrats usually do relatively well with the education race, superintendent of public instruction. So as far as money is concerned, not there yet. But as you say, it's early.
I dang near forgot about those people. And I was reminded of two of the folks running today. And one of them, whose name I didn't know, and the other one is, I think, was it Mr. Newby? Yeah, they're not so great in terms of fundraising yet, but there's still time. So let's just wait and see.
Right.
And if Yee and Horne bloody each other.
That's right.
There you go.
And if it's a Democratic year or a Republican year, there's some coattails there.
And we should also mention that when we talk about outside funding, Emily's List has come out and said, we're here. Don't forget about us.
Oh, yeah. There are these the governor has a PAC. Turning Point Action is a PAC. This private outside of the normal fundraising cycle money plays a greater and greater role in our elections nowadays. It's just the way it is.
Speaking of elections, Howie, it sounds like we're ready to see a referral regarding these restrictions. You can't do early ballots before Friday of the election and all that kind of bit. Talk to us about this.
Well, this has become a talking point for Republicans. And the argument is, look how long it takes us to get election returns. Well, part of it is a lot of people get their early ballots, and rather than mail them back, they bring them into an election office on election day, which means first they have to count the ballots that were cast there, and then they have to verify the ballots, which means looking at the signature, and then they can open the envelope. There was something like 280,000 of these in Maricopa County alone. So the argument is, okay, we will go ahead and say, if you want to turn in your ballot at the last minute, you can't just drop it off at any office. You have to drop it off by 5 p.m. on Friday, and we can start counting it. There are some other issues there in terms of whether there's international money being spread in races. The problem becomes you have somewhere north of 80% of Arizonans who like to vote early. Now, that doesn't affect them if you're going to drop it back in the mail. But if you happen to like to wait till the last minute, because once you've thrown the ballot, that last minute publicity, you can't call it back, and they like waiting that. Is it really going to catch fire with a lot of Republicans who say, wait a second, I don't want to be back.
And it does something other really important. It changes the way early ballots work, because once you sign up for the early ballot list in Arizona, the way it's been for 25 years, you get your ballot every year in the mail. This proposal, it's a constitutional amendment, will be in front of voters in November unless something happens, and the legislature didn't pass it, which I don't see. You have to re-sign up every 2 years and confirm your address. So this is an election security issue for the Republicans. But for folks who are, looking for greater participation, we're going to end up dropping a lot of people off the early voting list.
And Cameron, again, this is a referral here. The governor vetoed this kind of stuff before, but this goes around the governor straight to the voters. So the idea is, hey, voters, we want to make it more difficult for you to vote early and do your mail-in ballots?
Well, that's why the pretty packaging matters. So I think we're calling it the Secure Arizona Votes Act, or Voters Secure, or something like that. Something that makes it seem like voting is not secure, but this is going to secure it. And people are going to hopefully like that. But also the idea of we're going to get our results faster. And, people may not like signing away some of their rights to procrastinate, but they do like the idea of getting stuff done faster. So the question is that going to outweigh people's desire to be able to vote in different ways? I would say that, people really enjoy the convenience of voting last minute. I vote in person, because that's what Carrie Lake wants.
There's an interesting thing about how this is written. This is a constitutional amendment. It's only one page. It has like 8 bullet points. I reread it multiple times this week. The first one says you can only vote and only vote once if you're a United States citizen, which is the law now.
Right.
So why are we starting a constitutional amendment with that? Because the people who read their booklets will read that. Some small percentage of them, or some hopefully larger percentage of them, if you're Republicans, will say, that's what I want. You only want citizens voting. That's the way it is now. Why is that in there?
Can the critics argue that this creates confusion? I think the Democrats said that the quote was, it's sloppy, the language is too vague. Can that kind of stuff be used in a campaign against this?
Well,
if it
I
gets on
think
the
you
ballot?
can. Now, you have to remember, you always want to be on the no side of a ballot measure. No side starts off with 60%. Because when people are confused, they vote no. And I think you could say, for example, the issue of having to provide free ID. So does that mean if I don't want to pay for my driver's license, the state has to provide me with a free ID? How much money do we lose there? I think if you throw enough stuff at it, it'll work. The other piece of it is, while politicians and those of us in the press love early results, I'm not sure that everyone out there really needed to know exactly when Katie Hobbs won or whatever. The belief is that somehow somebody's in the back shop and they're shoving additional things through, which again has never been proved, but that's the conspiracy.
But then we go back again, and Cameron, we talked about this. We've talked about this so much because of election reform. But back in the day when this state was solidly one color and not so much solidly the other, these were blowout races. You could tell who won. AP would sit there and make a decision before you even had your dinner. Now the races are a lot closer, and when they're closer, they take longer to count.
Maybe AP is just getting slower.
Yeah.
Joking.
Well,
But yes,
I
it's
will
convenient.
say that the bottom line is that when races were blowouts, nobody cared if it took forever. Now that they're tight, people want the results now, and that's not the way elections work. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, I was just going to say, once that seed of mistrust is there, and it's been there, especially most of all since 2020, that just gives the seed time to ripen and grow. That extra waiting period, that extra day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, and people like to spread rumors and say, well, this must be going on because there's some nefarious reason for it.
And remember, 2020, first it was stop the count, because someone was ahead, and then all of a sudden, wait, went the other. Keep the count. So, and that's why you had people massed outside the Maricopa County Election Center.
Howie, sticking with you, it looks like Pinal County, was it Pinal County, I believe? Mm-hmm. Pinal County with the 287G agreement. It sounds like an agreement was made, but the people that signed on to the agreement had no idea that the deal was done.
Exactly. Pinal County Attorney Brad Miller, very conservative. I think he has larger things in mind for down the road. Has been a big fan of hot immigration enforcement. It's always been a hot issue in Pinal County. He said, well, great, we'll go ahead and cooperate. This 287G essentially gives police officers, the ability to do certain kinds of immigration. They get some training in terms of identifying immigrants, how to handle them, and everything else. It's not unusual to have this in jails. You got somebody in jail, they're here illegally, you go ahead and say, I want to put a hold on them, that's easy. The question is, do you want officers out there doing it? Pinal County supervisors heard about this deal and said, say what? Particularly with, and I think part of it is based on what's going on in Minneapolis, in Minnesota, because they're saying, we don't want to be part of that. We don't want to be tainted with that. And at the very least, why the hell didn't you tell us in the first place?
And a legal opinion says the board has a point.
Yeah, the board absolutely has a point. The Board of Supervisors, most of these 287G agreements are between sheriff's offices that run the jail and the DOJ. And as Howie said, what they do is when someone gets booked in a jail, they run them through the database using this federal authority that they have been granted. And if someone comes up as not being a citizen, then they notify ICE. ICE can come pick them up, right? That's the way it was. What's happening with Brad Miller is that he has 10 investigators that are now authorized under this 287G program to go out, question people on the street, and arrest them. That's not what the rest of Arizona has historically done. I think that's what kicked the can. When Pinal County investigated, had a lawyer investigate, they said that's not authorized, and we have to approve it.
Yeah, and the board basically said it's void.
They declared that, but I think there's some question. Like ICE seems to think that this agreement is still in the works until either they or the county attorney's office say that it's not. So maybe that remains to be seen. But yeah, there's also, I think, the question of, like Bob mentioned, these are usually with sheriff's offices, for example, and ICE, but this is with the county attorney. And the county attorney is the one supposed to be deciding about pressing charges. So it's sort of strange to have them going after people and then agreeing to press charges. And it's like the law and order becoming one
A little too much
in a
consolidation
way
there.
that we usually don't like in government.
Yeah. All right, Cameron, I want to stick with you here and talk about something that happened just recently, I believe, on 12 News with Bram Resnick, his show. He had the Attorney General on, and they talked about stand your ground laws in Arizona, which we have, and the idea of masked people saying that they are federal immigration agents, perhaps doing things that you don't want them to do. What did the Attorney General say?
Well, I think, again, this is not about Minneapolis, but kind of in response to the ICE activity that we've seen. And the question that a lot of folks have is, what are we supposed to do in a situation like that, where someone who we don't know if they work for CBP, for ICE, for the police, or if they're just a random person, if they're not identifying themselves, if they're coming up to you, if you're scared, are you supposed to try to run away? Do you fight back? Are you allowed to fight back? And what Attorney General Mays was saying was, well, it's certainly a really fraught situation that we're in. Everyone's tense. People are scared. And in Arizona, yes, we do have stand your ground laws. So if someone's coming up to you and you're afraid, yes, there's the Castle Doctrine. Yes, you're allowed to defend yourselves. And of course, this was not taken well by pretty much any Republican ever, who is basically saying she's inciting violence. She's encouraging people to go and hurt ICE officers and murder people, which I don't think is how she would phrase it. But yeah, we're obviously not in a great situation.
The problem becomes Chris Mays is smart legally. I think sometimes in politics, she doesn't understand. She answered the question asked, which is, we have stand your ground laws, which Republicans, remember, were the ones who pushed through, that said, you don't have to, if it's your house, your car, any place you're legally entitled to be, you're entitled to stay, you don't have to retreat, and you're entitled to use reasonable or deadly force as appropriate. And she said, look, this is a state where everybody owns a gun, and it's a recipe for disaster. Obviously, as Cameron pointed out, the Republicans saying you're telling people how to get away with shooting police. Well, not exactly. She's not saying here's what's happening. Now, the Republicans do have some points. You have other police officers, you have SWAT teams, you have undercover narcotics people who show up, and they'll burst through the door. Now the question becomes there, what do you do? We've had situations around the nation where police have burst in. All she was saying is, here's what's going on.
Here's a quote, Bob. If you're being attacked by someone not identified as a peace officer, how do you know?
Yeah, that's her. I think that what her point was is that we have seen across the country ICE agents and Federal Border Patrol agents on enforcement wearing masks, not identifying themselves in a lot of ways. And what's the average citizen supposed to do if somebody like that shows up at their front door? And she's pointing out, listen, we have a legal doctrine that you're allowed to defend yourself. If they're not identifying themselves and clearly visible as police officers, what might happen? I don't think she encouraged anyone to do that. She just pointed out what potentially could happen. And it's a reasonable thing to raise. What do you do if someone comes to your door at midnight who's not identified as a police officer, who may be dressed in a camouflaged way with a mask on? What are you supposed to do? What could potentially happen?
And a lot of this also comes down to the related question of immunity. That's been raised. Originally, J.D. Vance, in terms of the situation in Minneapolis, said ICE agents are absolutely immune, and he finally took that back and said that's not true. But here's the other thing that's developing, where Mays has set up a website on her page to say, if you see something, say something, if you will, where people can report things. They can upload pictures, they can upload videos. And I think what's happened is, given what we've seen has happened elsewhere, where the only way we've seen what's happened has been not because ICE has surrendered videos, but the outsiders have. The whole thing with Nicole Good. We saw what happened there because of outsiders. And so it's interesting that the Attorney General is taking a proactive approach and says, in essence, let me see what it is, and maybe I'll prosecute.
Yeah. All right. We're running out of time here. And Cameron, I do want to talk about the latest, John Gillette, I believe, the latest bill that I think he wants to urge, Congress to call Muslim groups terrorist groups? Is that what
Yeah,
the latest?
we're really talking about CAIR, which I believe is the Council of American Islamic Relations.
Yes.
That's a group that's been around for a while. He's arguing that they're tied to Hamas, that they're tied to the Muslim Brotherhood, that they are, in fact, terrorists themselves. But this proposal that he's pushing is really nothing more than a statement. It's called a resolution, and they do these sometimes with the legislature, but it's not like a law. It's toothless. And obviously, it's not going to get support from either Hobbs or the Democrats.
And we should mention, though, that it follows what happened in Texas, and that was a law. They did pass a law there regarding calling some of these groups terrorists.
And Florida.
And
Right.
Florida, too,
It's interesting. It's obviously highly political. And Mr. Gillette is from Kingman. He has been on a roll of putting stuff on Twitter, accusing Muslims of unspeakable things, using foul language. There were calls to censure him earlier this year, didn't come to pass. And he's following through with what he can do in the legislature to bring attention to what he thinks is an issue. Well, the Muslim community and those who back religious rights packed
Yeah,
the
it sounded like it was
legislature
packed.
this week
Yeah.
and trying to stop it. And I don't know if it'll go anywhere. I suspect it won't, especially if we get a few moderate Republicans looking at that turnout and saying, really, is this worth it?
All right, we got to stop it right there. Panel, good to have you all here. Thanks so much for joining us. That's it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great weekend.
Because kids will always be more curious, Arizona PBS delivers programs that serve as a trusted guide for little explorers. Thanks to you and
Arizona Theater Company at Tempe Center for the Arts presents High